Halo is a franchise that really allows you to experience a wide variety of gameplay scenarios, whether you're scaling down the face of a guardian at a great speed, or you're escaping an ancient alien weapon that's due to blow up at any minute. It has some adrenaline-inducing moments, but for me, it's when we step foot into a vehicle that really gives that gameplay variety. Due to Halo's science fiction setting, we're able to experience some great moments. I remember thinking about how cool the Ghost was when I first stepped into it, the floating Covenant assault vehicle, hovering in just a way that made me feel weightless, but also dangerous when gunning my foes down. But with that in mind, there's a lot of vehicles in Halo that have never managed to make a return, or that should definitely come back, and as such I'd like to break these ones down that I'd love to see come back and return in Halo Infinite. Make sure your voice is heard too. I want you to tell 343 in the comment section down below exactly what vehicle you want to return in Halo Infinite.
Ultimate Halo.
Hey up lads, Fletch here from Ultimate Halo, and thank you so much for tuning in. Please support my journey to Halo Infinite by subscribing and liking this video. Let's fill 343 with some last minute ideas before release so we can get the best Halo game possible, which is why this and many other videos exist on the channel. Brutes are called brutes for a reason, and for me the chopper depicts their nature perfectly. It's raw, it's technically rough around the edges, but damn does it give some serious damage. The chopper almost feels like a motorbike. There's a real swing to your movement and it makes you feel quite nimble. When you compare it to the Ghost, it can feel a little bit sluggish at times unless you're effectively using your boost, but with the chopper you're able to angle yourself and turn immediately so that you're on the assault. It's also super satisfying to ruin an enemy vehicle by ploughing them down. Have you ever had one of those one-on-ones head on head with another chopper and you've come out victorious? It's pretty satisfying to say the least, but I'll admit sometimes it's a bit of a risk. The Brute Chopper was first introduced in Halo 3 and we never really saw it return until Halo Wars 2, and it seemed that Creative Assembly did a really great job to capture the essence of the vehicle and how it should feel. It's got a raw sensibility about it, and now that the influence of the Banished has been put on the design language, it comes across as even more brutal. As such, I hope it does come back in Halo Infinite, whilst carrying forwards Halo Wars 2's design language, and I think the Halo sandbox has room for this vehicle, and I can't think of too many other additions that need making to it. However, with that said, I can envision a brake functionality, with the brutes being quite primitive, so what I see is some pedals at the sides that the player can stomp down to create friction on the floor and then grind them to a halt, which would embrace the rudimentary design of the brutes and their vehicles. Next up we have the Falcon. This is one of my favourite vehicles from Halo Reach in particular for so many reasons, but sadly it only did make that one appearance. The reason I enjoy it so much is because it puts an emphasis on teamwork, especially when there are game modes such as Invasion. It created the necessity for a good driver who is aware of all their angles, and it was going to turn around and make sure that each turret on each side can have an angle to gun down your enemies. Since then we've seen various variations of this vehicle. There was of course the Hornet prior in Halo 3, which did have mounts on the side so other players can step on, but there were no turrets, so as such it didn't feel quite as effective, and you the actual driver had control of the rounds and the missiles. I'll agree that it does make you feel a badass when playing online or in the campaign, but I personally just think there's something more satisfying about something that encourages teamwork, which in this day and age in online games feels pretty rare. Then you've also got the Wasp, which is a little bit more nimble as the counterpart, but its trade-off is that it's a lot weaker in how much damage it can take. And then we also have the Nightingale from Halo Wars 2, which was also cool, and it was more used for a healing unit, but in my eyes there will never be a cooler version of this vehicle. And in Halo Infinite there's nothing more I would love to see than this return, but if I was to add any sort of feature it would be more of a boosting system, because when you're getting shot in this thing it's not very nimble, and if you shooters aren't very good, you don't really have that get out of jail free card, whereas with the Banshee you have all these weapons, you've got the flip mechanic and you've also got the boost. So in reality if you're against the Banshee in this vehicle you're kinda screwed, but I'm interested to see what you would prefer to come back out of these air vehicles, but for me it's definitely the Falcon. My third pick is an absolute beast. Look at it, do I even need to say any more? The Elephant is freaking amazing. I remember spawning in on Sandtrap on my own when I was younger. I didn't have Xbox Live, but I was just dreaming about how cool it would feel to get a full squad on this monster and make a push to the enemy base to capture their flag. I think the only reason I enjoy this so much is because you're not bound to it as a team. It's more of a useful utility to use for mobile cover, so hop in a mongoose whenever you need to escape or get to the enemy team, and you can also hold the fort by mounting the turrets it provides. Yes, I will admit this thing is slow, but that's not always a bad thing. It needs to be balanced out, otherwise this thing would be a nightmare to play against. Hopefully Halo Infinite adopts some larger multiplayer environments, and then in Warzone, if that reaches its full potential with big environments, we can have some awesome moments going head to head in a vehicle like this. We also did see a variant of this in Halo 4's campaign, which was the Mammoth. It's more interactive in some ways and less so in others. It's huge, it has lots of weapons on the inside, it also has turrets, but unfortunately it's not a vehicle you can drive. I'd prefer the Elephant to return instead, or maybe even perhaps some sort of hybrid, and it would be a really cool idea to enable it to be a mobile rec station, so it would be sick if there were so many tactics for this. You could move it around the map, and if you needed ammo or you needed to change weapon, it could increase the dynamics of the matches tenfold. Also, who can forget the message you get when flipping this vehicle over? It's seriously got to take a lot to flip a machine like that. Have you ever been sat in a video game, sat there and thought to yourself,
I'm playing Halo, but there's one thing bugging me. I need to move this object from A to B, but I just don't know how.
Well, Halo Reach provided answers. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the forklift was created. I remember seeing this thing announced back in the day by Bungie, and I just couldn't stop laughing. I either thought to myself, Bungie have had far too much development time, or they've been smoking some good shit. But with that said, it was probably a little bit of both if I'm honest, especially in Seattle because that stuff's legal. Now even though I say the forklift should come back, which don't get me wrong, it absolutely should, I think this should be expanded upon. Halo Reach allowed you to drive other civilian vehicles such as trucks, and I'd love for this to be a feature in Halo Infinite. Of course, we don't really know where we're going to be located in the universe. It's pretty much set in stone at this point that we're going to experience Zeta Halo, and if we enter some sort of human colony, that would be a great chance to see some human vehicles. Or if it was a Covenant colony, it'd be interesting to see what they might drive, such as Sanghelios if we were to return there again. Or even if we were on the Grunt World Blaho, I don't really think we'd get too far with that. I strangely just can't envision a Spartan driving a little mini grunt car. Yeah, I don't think it's going to work. Now, you didn't think I was just going to include drivable, playable vehicles, would you? Come on guys, let's be real. The SCARABs were one of the coolest parts in Halo. In Halo 2, it was cool seeing them, but from an interactive perspective, they were pretty linear. But then Halo 3 came out and stepped up the game, and it's not quite been the same ever since. There's such a satisfaction in crippling the legs of a SCARAB in Halo 3, to then work your way around to mounting it, taking out the enemies on board, working your way to the back, and then taking out the core. They did also have the SCARABs in Halo Reach, but they literally just dropped from the sky and you never really got to fight them. Nor did you really have the means to. It was just a straight shot for the Pillar of Autumn and oh god! Then in Halo 5 we saw the Kraken, which was okay. I liked the interior, but it never really felt like much of a challenge. If there was a way for me to move around the map and cause navigational challenges when combating it, it might be different, because you literally had a phaeton, you flew around it, you kill everything from the air, hop on, kill your enemies inside and take the core. I think fundamentally it has a lot going for it, but it lacks that dynamism that the SCARAB has. In Halo Infinite I would love to see it return, but maybe this time more so with a banished variant. Make it a bit harder to penetrate or mount. Jesus, those are two bad words. It would be so cool if you can go full Star Wars on this thing, get a ghost, wrap some wire around the legs and make it fall over temporarily to hop on board. I don't think it needs changing too much, but just adding to even more ways that you could take it down would ultimately enhance the sandbox. Our second to last choice for returning vehicles is the Revenant. The pick for this one was tough because I do love the Spectre from Halo 2, especially from a design perspective. It is very similar, but unfortunately it's just basically a clone of the Warthog, but designed for Covenant troops, whereas the Revenant from Halo Reach is more of a hybrid between that and a Wraith. The Revenant holds a really satisfying punch when you're zipping a cannon across the other side of the map. Its range and power isn't too overpowered, but in the right hands it does have a destructive blow. But if I'm honest, I think there are changes that need to be made to this version if it was to return in Infinite, by making it a vehicle that is required to have two people inside, much like the Warthog or any other types of team-based vehicles. Perhaps it would be better to have it more like the Rocket Hog in the sense that you can rapidly fire, but you can only do so many at once. The reason I want this is just because I'm a fan of vehicles that require teamwork, and it encourages your teammates to have that mindset in multiplayer matches. The passenger seat in this vehicle is pretty pointless if you ask me, unless you're escorting the enemy flag back to your base, because the driver has all the functionality for the boost and the firing mechanism, so it may as well just be a ghost on steroids. So ultimately, I want this one to come back, but I want a lot more changes than the rest. Oh boy, we're on our last one. What in the world could this one be? Well, in this list I've mainly gone for vehicles that haven't returned to Halo in a good long while. But this time round, I'm actually going for one that appeared in Halo Wars 2. And the reason why I've not normally gone for Halo Wars 2 vehicles in general is because they're all suited to real-time strategy gameplay, and they don't all fit the style of a first-person shooter, except for this nimble little machine. So for my 7th and final pick, I've gone for the Cyclops. This machine is very much like the Mantis from Halo 4 and 5, but it's a lot smaller, it's faster, and it's a little bit weaker and nimble. I think my main problem with the Mantis is that I always feel so vulnerable in it, even though it can withstand a lot of damage. In Halo 5 Warzone in particular, I feel like I can be hit from any angle and boarded at any minute, and I could just lose an expensive wreck item for nothing. Unless the mechanics change in Halo Infinite with things such as sprint and thrust, I don't think this is going away, and the Mantis will probably come back, but I think the Cyclops could be a much better alternative. You could have the main weapon as the machine gun turret, which could be more used for suppression, and then you can have a single hit missile or more a railgun like weapon that needs to recharge. I would see this being more of a unit that pushes teams back as a suppression vehicle rather than being a full-on assault vehicle to blow everything up. Also, it looks cool, so why the hell not? So there we have it, my top picks for vehicles to return in Halo Infinite. Make sure you let me know what you want to see back in the comments. My name is Jack Fletcher, and I will see you next time on the one and the only, you got it, Ultimate Halo. See you later.
Subscribe now to Ultimate Halo for more unfriggin' believable Halo content.